What's Spider-Man's favorite music streaming service? Spotify. Welcome to my comic book editions video today. This is volume 136, which is A Spectacular Spider Haul, Part 4. I've had the chance to pick up so many comic books in the Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man line that I've broken them up into different videos, releasing one a month, sharing those with you. This is the March edition, which will cover some books that were published from this title between 1980 and 1981. Getting started today with a comic book that could be worth up to $2,500 to me. Well, that's what the banner says. It's Peter Parker the Spectacular Spider-Man issue number 46. If you watch my previous Spectacular Spider Haul videos, you know that I've been a big fan of reading this series. I thought that it aged very well. I had never read most of these issues before, and I'm so happy to have them. I didn't know what I was missing out until I started reading them. This one is kind of the exception to the rule, though, because I just couldn't get into this one. I guess you can't win them all. I do like this Frank Miller cover, though. One thing that this issue reminded me of, Spider-Man remembers meeting and battling Quicksilver. That happened in Amazing Spider-Man number 71. That's a book that's on my Spider-Man want list, but it's always been kind of down low. Within the last couple years, I've gotten so many books that were higher than that on my want list that book has really risen a lot. And hopefully someday, maybe sooner than later, on a comic book editions video, I'll have the chance to tell you how I finally was able to add it into my collection. That'd be pretty awesome. Issue number 47, before I talk about it, I want to acknowledge that big old Toys R Us banner at the top. So as a kid growing up in a little small town, no fast food, no stoplights, it's an hour away to the closest major city, which did not have a Toys R Us, and it was in another state. I always wondered what would going to Toys R Us be like. You know, I saw their TV commercials, I saw the ads in the comic books, and I remember my family going to a Chicago suburb to visit relatives when I was a kid, and one of my cousins said, "I'm going to take you to a Toys R Us," and I was so excited. We pull in, it's in a strip mall. The store is so much smaller than I expected. I remember many of the fluorescent lights were burnt out. It was so dark in there. There were water, at least I hope it was water, stains on the carpeting, and even at that age, just being so disappointed in the store. Now, in the 1990s and 2000s, as that store grew and got bigger and became closer to where I lived, I'd go to stores that would be the size of what a big box store is now, just full of toys. That's what I was expecting when I was a child. This issue finds the introduction to the new Prowler. And the Prowler is working for Belladonna. She's a character that I talked about in my last video. She made her first appearance in Spectacular Spider-Man number 43. And back then in that issue, I thought, which was just a one-issue storyline, I thought, this character is kind of interesting. She ties into the fashion world too. And I thought, I wish that 43 had been a two-part story. Well, this is a two-part story with Belladonna, 47 and 48. I like seeing Belladonna in the back in the purple with her face kind of looming over the events that are going on in the cover. I think that's pretty good. We get her origin in this issue as well. Something that I've just learned about this issue, there's a portion or part of the story where you see this gentleman picking up a stuffed animal from a burned out apartment building. Apparently that gentleman is Len Wein. So he made a cameo in issue number 48. I really like the cover with Spider-Man taking on the Smuggler in issue number 49. So starting in this issue and continuing for the next two, the stories are a little bit shorter because they devote some page room to doing some White Tiger backup stories. And in the White Tiger story in this issue, White Tiger's identity has been known to the public for a little while, and a villain goes after and kills his entire family in this issue. It's kind of a short story, but it's very action-packed considering how much happens in the small amount of pages that they devote to it. So the events of the backstories of these next three issues for White Tiger will play into a whole issue that I'll talk about in just a little bit. We're up now to the anniversary issue number 50 of Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man. It's Spidey versus aliens, and these are the aliens that resemble the ones that he fought all the way back in Amazing Spider-Man issue number 2. So I really like the callback factor to this, that, here's something that we haven't seen publishing-wise in 20 years, that they brought back. Now, it might have been 20 years in between the appearances of these aliens, but in Marvel time, it would have been about 5 years, I read, between the events of ASM number 2 and the events in this issue. They aren't actually real aliens. They are thieves that are dressed up like the aliens, and they've teamed up with Mephisto, and they are after Dutch Malone's money. I'll talk more about that in just a minute. But one thing that was interesting in this story to me, Peter Parker's in his apartment at midnight, and he makes a comment how thankful he is that his neighbor isn't blaring the country music that he likes to listen to or play or whatever. And I thought, that's kind of a random thing to say in a comic book, or kind of odd. And then this next issue comes along, issue number 51. So Spidey's climbing up a building, and one of the crooks, one of the bad guys that's dressed up like an alien, has his mask off, and he's singing a Tammy Wynette song. And it's Stand By Your Man, which is kind of an interesting choice in itself, nonetheless. And I thought, this must be the guy that Peter Parker was talking about. This must be his neighbor, that played the country music. But they never said that in this issue or in this story or in any issue I've read since. So I don't know if we as the reader are just supposed to connect the dots, or if it isn't the same person, but it does seem so odd to have a country music reference in back-to-back issues of Spectacular Spider-Man. That just seemed very odd to me. So these crooks, these dressed up as the aliens, and Mysterio, they're after Dutch Malone's money. It's in the house that Aunt May lives in, so they think. Of course, if you read the events in the storyline in ASM between 193 and 200, the money really isn't in the house anymore. But they don't know that. Mysterio has kidnapped Peter Parker. He's subjecting him to all of his illusions, which seem so real. At one point, Spider-Man is attacking Peter Parker, and that's how Peter knows that it definitely is an illusion, even though it feels real, because he's Spider-Man. Mysterio doesn't know that. But Spidey's saying things like, "You make money off of selling my photo to the Daily Beagle." And I actually thought that those panels, which were my favorite part of the story, would have made a much better, striking, and compelling cover than what they used here. I thought this was a good cover until I saw that part of the story, and then I thought they missed the mark on that one. I don't know, I just think that one would have been better. Because Spidey really isn't in space in this story. He's in an illusion. A cover I do like, though, right from the very beginning, is this one. Look at White Tiger there getting struck down. So the events in the backup stories from the 3 previous issues come into play in this issue, in the full issue. So Gideon Mace is after all of the superheroes. He wants to get rid of them. He's starting with White Tiger. He's killed his family, and he's put White Tiger in grave danger. And so White Tiger is fighting for his life in this issue. He makes it through, and he ends up retiring. Of course, that retirement doesn't last all that long, because I believe his next appearance in a comic book would be Daredevil number 38. Issue number 53. This is, the villain is, and I'm just crossing my fingers here that I say this correctly, Tinkerer. Big difference between that and the Twinkler. He really feels like a ripoff of the Superman villain Toyman. That's definitely the vibes that I got from reading the story and this character. It's Marvel's version of Toyman for sure. And even this big guy here that's got Spider-Man in the hole, this is not a real person. It's a toy he's brought to life. So I think you overall kind of get the idea and the gist of what's going on here in this issue. If you're wondering how many Spectacular Spider Hall videos I'm going to be having, 7 for sure. So there's definitely 3 more after this, the way that I've broken them down. Now, if I end up buying some more Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man comic books, between now and by the time Volume 7 is released, there could be a Volume 8. You never know, but there definitely will be 7 volumes at least. So we've got a few more months going of sharing these. That's how many that I bought all in one stretch here. And I've just been loving them for the most part. Issue number 54 also finds the smuggler in this issue as well. This one, once again, like I said with 46, I just couldn't get into this one. It's an okay story, but I just couldn't get into this. By the way, if you're new to my channel and haven't subscribed yet, I hope you'll take this opportunity to do so. Sharing my channel and sharing this video with someone that you think might enjoy it's another great way to show support to my channel. I'd love to hit the 700. My ultimate goal is to hit 1K in subscribers. And I really appreciate all you do for me and the support that you show me. But yeah, if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe as well. Here is issue number 55. This was a good read. I wasn't familiar with Nitro as a villain. The only Nitro that I knew, I think, was on the TV show American Gladiators. Do you remember that one, American Gladiators? This was a good read, and I did enjoy this one. Hey, speaking of 1K, I want to thank you for all of the views you've been giving my back issue of the week shorts that I've been doing. This month I've been devoting those for Women's History Month about some superheroines. And the one that I dropped yesterday is about a Marvel heroine, actually that Spidey has teamed up with before in a Marvel team-up book. Well, he teamed up with her, sort of. But check out that back issue of the week short. And thank you again for all the views you've been giving those. To see the 1K views that I've been pulling in on some of those has just been blowing my mind. Mind blown. Thanks to you. And just want to make sure that I spend a moment to acknowledge that and let you know how appreciative I am. One more book that I want to share with you before I wrap things up. This is the only one out of the lot that I'm sharing today that I haven't had the chance to read yet, but it does look good. This is the 1981 Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man King-Size Annual. It's annual number 3. And it takes place between issues number 58 and 59 of the Spectacular Spider-Man story. Here we have Spider-Man and the Man-Wolf, John Jameson. John Jameson, that name sounds so familiar. So I am looking forward to getting the chance to read this sometime in the near future. And by sharing this book, that wraps up what I'm sharing for this month in this edition, Spectacular Spider Haul Part 4. We're going to actually jump a little bit number-wise for Spectacular Spider-Man with Part 5 next month. Wanted to tell you something really exciting before I forget too. I mentioned this a little bit in a previous video. The comic book I wrote, Female Force Loretta Lynn. It's getting a new printing. It's updated to cover the events and Loretta's passing as well, which wasn't covered in the first edition. That book actually came out the day after she passed away by sheer coincidence. But Tidal Wave Comics is re-releasing it next Wednesday. It's going to be called Tribute, Loretta Lynn, and there's an extra page of story in there. I believe there's some artwork that you haven't seen before, and it has a brand new cover. That's available wherever you buy your comic books at online. Your digital comic books, or Amazon has a hardcover version of it as well. Thank you again for your support that you showed me on the first one. If you're interested in this new version, this new updated version, well, slightly updated version, that's available as well. I just wanted to make sure that you knew about that. So coming up soon on my channel, in addition to these back issue of the week shorts and Fanboys Live in the Retro Review, which you can watch Sundays on my channel, we have Kachun guesting for this upcoming Sunday show. In addition to that, recently I showed you a Marvel key comic book that I wasn't even chasing that I added into my collection. Well, I have a DC Comics one as well. I wasn't chasing this one either, but I've got it. And I also have a book that makes comic book investments rare list. And I'll explain more about that in a future video here on my channel as well. Once again, I couldn't do this without you, nor would I want to. Thank you for your friendship and support. You've made it to the end of another Comic Book Editions video, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.